All right. We're back. What's going on? I need to find non-copyrighted music, copyright-free music to play in here. And I'm not playing Go New York, Go New York, Go, down 2-1 in a series. And I've got a few other things, but, I don't want to play some random beats. Either way, I'm going to get right into it. I know you like to usually wait for people to trickle in here. But either way, listen, it's good to be back. Enjoyed my Memorial Day weekend. I did not bring my computer, mic, and ring light to Margate down the shore, but I'm back, and it just sucks. I had to miss 2 games. I still put out a pregame and a postgame for game 2, and then a postgame for game 3, in which I was drunk at the bar. Please don't look that up. But here we are, game 4 after. Another unbelievable comeback in the series. This time it was the Knicks doing against the Pacers instead of the opposite. Karl-Anthony Towns has the best quarter from any Knick this entire series in the fourth quarter of game 3, in which he scored 20 points. Listen, the Knicks season has been saved, and it is in large part due to the fact that Karl-Anthony Towns went off when he went off. So listen, I'm not going to take back all the criticism that I made towards Karl-Anthony Towns for being a traffic cone defensively. But I think that there's a little bit of leeway here. Because when Karl Towns is as good as he was in game 3 in the fourth quarter offensively, he's worth playing. The only thing that I've said repeatedly, time and time again, about Karl-Anthony Towns is when he's inept offensively, there is no reason why you play him at all. And what we saw in game 3, and this was, I think, there was a multitude of reasons why it happened. People are saying, there's only reason that Tom Thibodeau went outside of his main players and, switched the starting lineup. There's so many excuses for that. It's foul trouble. The reason why Jalen Brunson didn't play down the stretch. Tom Thibodeau could have played him. He didn't. He did not play him. And Jalen Brunson sat from the 7-minute mark up until about 1:50 left in the game. And there's a reason why. Because Karl-Anthony Towns was absolutely going off. There's no reason, and now I think Tom Thibodeau has finally come to a senses with this, to play both of them at the same time. And now you're going to see increasingly over the course of the series, and let's pray to the gods that Tom Thibodeau is not going to switch it up, but we are going to see, hopefully, the two of them get staggered. Listen, it sucks to say that they may lose some minutes here, but that's just the case of what we're going to see. These two guys could not play well defensively together in the same lineup. Yes, they provide so much for you offensively, but I think both of them have enough offensive prowess to go off on their own with a better defensive lineup surrounding them, and that will help the Knicks win these games. If Tom Thibodeau wasn't so rigid in games 1 and 2 and decided to start Mitchell Robinson, to play DeLon Wright instead of campaign, to give Landry Shamet some freaking run, the Knicks might be up 3-0 right now. But, it's a moot point. Both of the games were played. The Knicks lost both of them. Of course, in game 1, they had an unbelievable collapse. And then in game 3, the Pacers had a collapse of their own, obviously nowhere near the level of what the Knicks did in game 1. I digress. Here we are, game 4, in a series in which the Knicks are still completely in. Being down 2-1, Pacers with home court advantage. It obviously, did not look good at the, let's say the 3-minute mark in the second quarter in game 3. Self-admittedly, I turned off the game. I couldn't watch it. I was out with friends, and, I was planning on watching it on my phone in the corner of the bar. Once I saw what I saw earlier on in the game, again, with 2-3 minutes left in the second quarter, I put out a few hateful tweets. I think I wasn't, the only one who thought that the Knicks season was over at that point, who thought that the Knicks had zero fight, and then they were not going to come back in that game. I really just don't think I was alone in that, but I was wrong. Yet again, proven wrong by this Knicks team. Am I optimistic the Knicks could come back in this series and potentially win it? Slightly. I think it's like 65-35 Pacers, in which, the odds that both these teams win the series and advance to the finals. But here we are, game 4. I think that the Knicks are in a much better spot right now in this series. What the hell is this? I don't know. I'm hearing noises right now. I don't know if that's a video or whatever. But But I think the Knicks are in a really good spot right now. You got Aaron Nesmith, who was questionable coming into this game with an ankle injury. He's going to play. Obviously, he's going to tough it out. This is a must-win game for the Pacers, just like it is for the Knicks. Aaron Nesmith has been the one guy who's been effective at defending Jalen Brunson. Of course, Jalen Brunson is still averaging over 30 points in the series and is able to get his whenever he wants. But the one guy throughout these playoffs who's actually been able to slow Brunson down has been Aaron Nesmith. And you look at what he provides you on the offensive end, as well as the defense as well. You look at, true shooting percentage. He's a 77.2% true shooting percentage in this series. I mean, that's unbelievable. I correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the league average for true shooting is around like 55, 56. I'm not 100% sure on that. You can correct me again if I'm wrong. But all I know is that 77.2% is absolutely freaking insane. It's by far the best true shooting percentage in these entire playoffs, much less the series. But listen, that's a major thing to watch. And it was obviously a big thing to watch going into this game, whether or not he played. I think everyone knew deep down that that Nesmith was going to play this game. We obviously don't know how limited he's going to be with that ankle, but the adrenaline is pumping in big games like this, so we knew he was going to go out there and play. So he's playing. That's the latest update we have on that. Josh Hart looked like he injured that knee going up for that rebound, what ended up being the game-winning rebound, and the two free throws that he hit that iced the game. We haven't heard anything about his knee. You like to hope that he's in good shape there, and the Knicks' lack of injury report, and when it comes to reporting the injuries that they have and the players that they do not have on there right now, it is true to that. So, but Nesmith, listen, if he's limited in any way, this series could go a lot differently than it has already went. And apologies for my hoarse voice. I have terrible allergies. Trust me, it's not from screaming at the bar on Sunday night when the Knicks made that comeback. But again, I think that's the main thing to watch on the Pacers side is what the hell are they going to do when it comes to defending Jalen Brunson? Like, you could throw Nesmith on him. And you can obviously see early on what Nesmith has, the limitations that he has with that ankle injury, the ankle injury which kept him out for a portion of that second half in game 3. That could be a major issue for him in terms of staying in front of Brunson, getting through all those screens as well as he does. I mean, let me just say this. I think a lot has been said about what Nesmith has brought the Pacers, specifically in the run that he went on, the last few minutes of game 1 in the fourth quarter. But I don't think I've ever seen a player get through screens as well as Aaron Nesmith does. Like, why don't the Knicks have a guy that could do that? Why don't the Knicks also have someone who could set a hard screen? It feels like every team the Knicks have played throughout this playoff run has been able to generate switches extremely easy. For whatever reason, and the Knicks have not been able to do that. Aaron Nesmith is a major factor in that no matter who comes up and tries to set the screen, whether it's OG, whether it's Hart, whether it's even Deuce, like Nesmith is getting around every single one of these screens. So again, you got to give credit to Nesmith where credit is due when it comes to his defense, when it comes to his offense. He is by far the best net rating of any one of the Pacers in this series, not even close. So again, that's going to be something to watch because I'm not going to say he's been the biggest factor in the series, but if you're talking about X factors that aren't the main guys on both teams, Nesmith has been number 1, 100%, because of his defensive Brunson, and then of course what he did in game 1 in the last 3 minutes of that fourth quarter. So watch out for that. The Knicks are going to have a major advantage if Nesmith is in any way limited. Of course, you don't want that. You don't want to hear excuses from the opposing team. You also don't want to face a team that has injuries. The Pacers seem like they enjoyed facing the Knicks with all the injuries they had last year throughout those playoffs, especially after game 2 in which OG Anunoby went down with the hamstring strain. I don't want the roles to be reversed here because I do not want to hear the excuses, from Pacers fans like they probably heard from Knicks fans, which are actually valid and warranted. I think there's a difference. But I want to talk about a few things. I kind of briefly, mentioned and harped on it earlier on in this live stream about Tom Thibodeau not being as rigid as he's been throughout the course of the previous 14 games throughout the playoffs. And then in game 15 and game 3 of this series against the Pacers, he finally switched it up. We heard rumblings. We heard rumors going into the game that Tom Thibodeau was finally looking to switch up the starting lineup. looking to take Josh Hart, which was always the easy choice, out of the starting lineup for Mitchell Robinson. He did, and it changed the course of the series, in my opinion. And that wasn't the main reason why we're here right now in a 2-1 series instead of a 3-0 series. I do think that set the tone for the rest of the game. It set the tone for that starting lineup only playing three, the previous starting lineup, the starting lineup who played, the most minutes out of any lineup in the NBA in the regular season and in the playoffs as well. It wasn't close either way. But we saw that lineup only 3.5 minutes, play only 3.5 minutes in game 3. I think that trend continues. I hope that trend continues because from what we've seen, I've had a bunch of arguments with different people who are very reputable when it comes to covering basketball, who know their shit. And they just, for whatever reason, refuse to admit that starting lineup, being thrown out there time and time and time again was the main reason why the Knicks were losing games throughout these playoffs. And I think anyone with a brain, I'm not gonna call out the people that I talk to, but I'm not gonna say that they don't have a brain, but anyone who's willing to look past their love for Tom Thibodeau could realize that was one of the major reasons why the Knicks didn't play as well throughout the playoffs. I'm not just gonna say, in the first 3 games of the Pacers, the first 2 games of the Pacers series, I'm talking about the 12 games before that. I'm talking about in every single one of the games the Knicks lost to the Pistons, to the Celtics. There was an argument to be made that was made from the people that I talked to who were, fervently defending Tom Thibodeau, was that starting lineup is the reason why they came back against Boston in games 1 and 2. But if you look at both those games, guess who wasn't on the floor when they started those comebacks? The starting line. So I think Tom Thibodeau finally coming to his senses can really shift the balance of momentum in the series going forward. It took a lot of experimenting. It took a lot of, seeing what worked throughout the course of the last game on Sunday. And it really took until the fourth quarter, until he figured out a lineup that worked. And I just think it's insane that, that we sat there watching the TV, or if you're somehow in Indiana or wherever you were watching the game, whether it be on a phone at a bar or, again, on your couch, I digress, watching in the fourth quarter of a must-win Eastern Conference Finals game, a lineup consisting of Deuce McBride, Landry Shamet, DeLon Wright, Josh Hart, and Karl Anthony Towns. That lineup played 3 minutes, a fourth of the fourth quarter, in a must-win Eastern Conference Finals game. If you told me, even a week ago or 2 months ago that would be the case in as big of a game that Sunday's game was, I tell you, you're absolutely freaking crazy. And you have to stay off the weed. But we saw that. And that wasn't just the one lineup that we saw down the stretch of that game. We saw a bunch of different combinations. The lineup that played the majority of those minutes in the fourth quarter, excuse me, was Anunoby, Hart, Bridges, McBride, and Towns. And that was the lineup that closed the game before Brunson came back in with around 2 minutes to go. And, there's a reason why the Knicks won that game. And it was largely due to the fact that, again, Tom Thibodeau wasn't as rigid. He switched up the lineups. He got DeLon Wright, who's infinitely times better defensively than I want to comment on this because a lot of people are uptight about Rick Carlisle's psychological warfare and his reverse psychology, and saying first before the series, Mitchell Robinson's a really good player. We haven't seen Achua in the mix yet. I think that was pretty funny. And then what he said yesterday, the day before, I think it was yesterday, about campaign, he's had some good stretches. He played, I want to say, 15 minutes of good basketball. He's played 15 minutes of good basketball these entire playoffs, and that happened to be the first game of said playoffs. So I wanted to get that out because that's been on my mind. A lot of people, again, are uptight about it. They're upset about it. I think it's freaking hilarious. Rick, that's really funny. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, he's trying to screw with Tom Thibodeau. No one's going to fall for it. I just think it's really freaking funny. That's hilarious. I digress for the 15th time. But I just think it's really amazing the guys that we saw thrown out there. DeLon Wright, again, like I said, is 6'5". He's got length. He can get into the passing lanes. He's a much better on-ball defender than any one of the guard, than Jalen Brunson, especially than Cam Payne, as well than any other one of the backup point guards besides Deuce McBride. And Deuce McBride has been playing more of a combo guard and also point guard as well. But listen, I just think that, Tom Thibodeau found something. And I briefly mentioned this earlier that a lot of people aren't willing to give Tom Thibodeau the credit for finally changing his ways and are kind of not blaming, but like giving the credit to what happened down the stretch of the game because of, the foul trouble that Jalen Brunson was in. I guess how the game went. Like Tom Thibodeau finally coached a good game this series. It might be his best coach game the entire playoffs. Looking Jalen Brunson in the face down the stretch of a must-win Eastern Conference Finals game and essentially telling him, you're not going back in the game, that takes a lot of balls. That takes a lot of, as an NBA coach, as someone, who obviously has a great rapport with his star player, a lot of mental fortitude. Like, I get it. He's got all the power in the world. I get that. He doesn't have to listen to Jalen Brunson. But, like, the fact that he held off, the fact that he finally rolled with the lineup that worked was amazing to see. And I do believe that Brunson being in foul trouble had something to do with that. That maybe if Brunson had 3 fouls or 4 fouls, that Brunson would be in more. But I also think that you had Karl-Anthony Towns rolling. And, he had most of its points in that fourth quarter within the first 3 or 4 minutes of the quarter. But either way, after that, the defense has to respect Cat a lot more than they were. They've got to play him 30 feet out. That changes everything. And again, the Knicks, at this point in the series, knowing what they know now, are not willing to sacrifice defensively in order to play Cat and Brunson next to each other. Because their offensive output has not been as good as it can be when it comes to, the dichotomy between that and the defense. Like, it's not justifiable playing the two of them together in a lot of minutes in a game when the defense has looked as bad as it has with that lineup. And maybe you want to play Brunson and Cat together sparingly, I've said I would like to see it a max of 12, 13 minutes. I get that that's not really possible because, 13 to 35 minutes, that means that both those guys are only going to play 30 minutes a game. Like, that's not happening. I think 15 or 16 minutes is way more likely in this series. But, like, maybe you could play, alongside those guys. You could play Deuce, you could play OG, and you could play Mitch. I feel like the best defensive lineup that consists of the Knicks' 2 stars, includes Mitchell Robinson, because Karl-Anthony Towns' standalone 5 simply does not work. And I do get, that people can correctly point this out and say, oh, Bryce, look at the fourth quarter of game 3 in which Mitchell Robinson barely plays that quarter. Barely plays. I believe it was only like 30 seconds in that fourth quarter. And again, it's you can justify playing Cat over Mitch that much in a quarter when Cat is providing that offensively. Like, that's who you traded for. That is the type of talent that you traded, the assets that you traded to get him for. Like, that's what the Knicks had in mind. That's what they envisioned when they traded Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo. Julius Randle, whatever happened there, when it came to his performance in game 4 against the Thunder, he disappeared. I kind of have to eat my words there when I've been talking a lot about, how I'm still upset about the Randle trade. Between his performance last night and his comments about New York and the media, I'm going to walk back that one a little bit here. Obviously, you'd love that DiVincenzo, but think about it. Think about who the Knicks were trying to give up in that deal. They were trying to give up Julius and Mitchell Robinson. And who out of Mitch or Dante DiVincenzo would you rather have in this series? Mitch. Because Indiana cannot rebound to save their lives. No matter what they do, they are not going to be able to rebound nearly as well as the Knicks. You look at Mitchell Robinson, what he provides you in the offensive glass, no one even touches his offensive rebounding percentage in this series. It's 17.9. 17. The next closest player is Tony Bradley. On the pace, the next closest player is Tony Bradley. And that is not a player you could play more than 10 minutes a game. That's the one good rebounder the Pacers have. You can't justify playing him because of what he brings offensively and defensively. Tony Bradley, just because he might get a few more boards, fine. Play him 5-10 minutes when Mitch is out there. But offensive rebounding-wise, they don't have anyone who could touch Mitchell Robinson. And the offensive rebounds are massive because you grab an offensive rebound, you're preventing the Pacers from getting out and running in transition. And we all know that the Pacers' offense is at its best when they're pushing the ball down the court. And you know that because you've heard it being said by every Pacer and the coach, Rick Carlisle. After the loss in Game 3 the other night, you had a lot of people out there. Miles Turner I heard it from, Tyrese Halliburton, all saying the reason why they lost that game is because they went away from what works offensively. And what works offensively is the fast-paced tempo and, and transition looks and all that good stuff for them. And one of the reasons why they weren't able to get all that is, one, because the Knicks weren't missing many shots, and two, Mitchell Robinson was grabbing a lot of big rebounds. Josh Hart grabbed a few huge rebounds as well. But another one of the reasons why the Knicks won Game 3 is because these, experimentations from Tom Thibodeau with these lineups allowed the Knicks to be really good defensively. And it's another thing you heard from Rick Carlisle after Game 3 when they asked him, essentially, why do you struggle to score so much after the 3-minute mark in the second quarter? And he said because the Knicks were actually playing their better defenders. And it's kind of a shot at Jalen Brunson, but Jalen Brunson's not one of the Knicks' better defenders. It's very hard to score against the Knicks when they're putting in Deuce, when they're putting in Bridges, when they're putting in OG, when they're putting in Hart and Mitch, or Cat and Mitch instead of Hart. Like, those defensive lineups are very, very difficult to play against, especially if Tom Thibodeau is willing to play Shamet and DeLon Wright alongside Deuce, alongside Hart, alongside Cat and Mitch. Like that, again, like, it's why I was screaming for weeks. Why, Tom Thibodeau, why aren't you playing Shamet? Like, you really don't think that Shamet can give you better minutes than what Cam Payne has given you throughout these playoffs? You really have to throw Cam Payne out there for the start of a fourth quarter in Game 2 of an Eastern Conference Finals? I'm still not over that. And good freaking riddance that Cam Payne did not play in Game 3. He should not play another minute throughout these playoffs. And if he does play, you put him in for 2 minutes, let him take a couple threes. If he misses, you pull him immediately. That's it. Because I think he could be a major asset and a major spark plug when he's actually hitting his threes, but he hasn't done that in 14 games. He hasn't done that since Game 1 of the Pistons series. It's been a non-factor on both sides of the ball since late April. It's been a full month since he had a good game. So you can't justify playing him. But again, if you do, you try to see what he has. If he's bringing it from downtown, you play him a little bit more until he cools off. Other than that, you don't play him. You don't play him at all. Because, again, DeLon Wright brings you so much more defensively. He's an oversized point guard. He can handle the ball. He's a much better cutter. He gets involved in the passing lanes. He's a much better on-ball defender because of his size and his length. And then Landry Shamet obviously can bring it on both ends. He's a good 3-and-D player. And I cannot believe that Tom Thibodeau has not played him in all these playoffs, like in real big minutes until the other night. That's extremely frustrating, but he did it. It's better late than never. I'm really trying to stray away from the mindset of being like, oh, the Knicks, and if you miss it, so this is kind of what I said earlier. But I'm really trying to stray away from the mindset of saying, oh, well, the Knicks could be up 3-0 because of Tom Thibodeau's rigid ass, tendencies as a head coach. Like, it's okay. It's okay. I'm trying to come back down to earth. I'm trying not to, lose my mind with the negativity that sometimes plagues my mind in every area of my life. But, I'm gonna try to sit here and, understand the reality of the situation is that the Knicks are down 2-1, and Tom Thibodeau finally came to his senses. And obviously, we'll see what happens tonight, but I do want to get into my keys to the game like I always do here. And number one, far and away number one, is Tom Thibodeau needs to continue to rely on his bench players, and he needs to continue staggering the Brunson cabinets. Whoever is playing better offensively is who you play. If you want to go to 3 or 4 minute stretch here and there, two of the guys together, so be it. Defensively, if they start to break down, you pull one of them immediately. You can't wait. You can't wait a possession. You can't wait 2 possessions. I don't care what it is. You pull them immediately. If you got to call a timeout, you call that timeout. That's number one. Alongside, obviously, playing those bench guys, playing Deuce McBride, 30-plus minutes a game because of what he provides you on both ends of the court. Like, he's your best option off the bench offensively in terms of his own shot-making ability. His effectiveness from 3, his ability to face guard. These Pacers guards who are just so good at creating their own shots. Like Deuce McBride has been one of the unsung heroes of this playoff series. And look how far he's come. I mean, people were calling for his head in that first series against the Pistons. He was largely unplayable. But what he has done since game 1 of the Boston series is become the two-way monster that he was last year in the playoffs. If you remember, he was a major factor in that Pacers series. He was a big factor in the Sixers series. He deserved every minute that he got with all the Knicks injuries, and he's deserving of every minute that he gets in this series as well. So I like to see Deuce McBride play a lot more. I like to see the defensive lineup utilized, 10 minutes or more, whether it be Brunson in the lineup with Mitch at the 5 or Cat at the 5, and a mix of Deuce, DeLon Wright, or whomever at the 1. So that's my big, far and away number. And number 2, I gotta say it. The Knicks need to get the ball to OG Anunoby. Like, I think what we saw in game 3 from him down the stretch defensively is like what we need to see more often. And he's, unfortunately, like, there are players across the NBA that are like this, but there are players in this league that play better when they are more efficient on offense. OG goes 4 for 6 from 3 in game 3. And guess what he provides you at the end of the game? Top-level defense like we know OG Anunoby is capable of. And he bitched out Aaron Nesmith down the stretch of that game. And he showed the most emotion that we've seen him show maybe throughout his entire Knicks tenure. He was fired the hell up. He only got 9 shots up in the game. I can understand why. Because Cat was so amazing over the course of that fourth quarter. He probably should have gotten 3 or 4 more there. He's taken, no more than, 16, 17 shots in a game. He shot 18 times in the Knicks win over Boston in game 6 at the Garden. I think that was a different story. A lot of those shots came in garbage time of that game. But throughout this Pacers series, he scored 16 points in 3 straight games. There's a lot of consistency there. I'd like to see more of that. I'd like to see the aggressive OG Anunoby, because between him and Mikal, like, the 2 of them are gonna have the most continuity throughout this game, because they're gonna be playing alongside Brunson. They're gonna be playing alongside Cat. Whereas Cat and Brunson are not gonna be playing alongside each other. They're obviously the 2 most important players the Knicks have on the offensive end. So both those guys are going to be ingrained in these lineups no matter who is in said line. So I think it's very important that you get OG Anunoby going early. I think Bridges is important as well. You get his fadeaway shot. It feels like every other game he just doesn't have it, from the mid-range. And, like, I get it. You're not going to be a consistent player always, but, we've obviously seen this from Mikal Bridges the entire season. This is not just something that we've seen over the course of the last 3 games. I think this is just who Mikal Bridges is, that some games he'll have it, some games he won't. But, the positive with this Knicks team is that Mikal Bridges wears a multitude of different hats for this Knicks team. The defense that he provides you. The playmaking ability that he does have. The shot-making ability that the Knicks are, rely on him for occasionally when Cat and Brunson either don't have it or not in the game. A la the fourth quarter of game 2 against Boston. But, Mikal and OG are extremely important. I'd like to see them getting the 2 going early. I think that would be a great way to start the game. So that's very important. I'd say number 3 is and I saw this floated out there, and I kind of have to agree with it, is like, make Tyrese Halliburton beat you with his scoring ability. I don't think anyone believes that Tyrese Halliburton is as good of a scorer as he is a playmaker. And like, that's not to say that he's not a good scorer. I mean, he's amazing, and he's extremely clutch, and hits big shot after big shot after big shot. I'd say give him some driving lanes here and there. Trust your backline guys. Mitchell Robinson being the one guy, OG Anunoby as well, to come out and help and contest and force him into tough floaters. Don't give him an easy kick-out pass for a wide open three, because I think these Pacers have shown time and time again that they're extremely adept at hitting open shots. The Knicks cannot continue to allow that like they did in games 1 and 2. A couple shots go the Pacers' way in game 3, and the Pacers are up 3-0. I do think that if a few shots go the Knicks' way in game 1, the Knicks win game 1. But either way, I mean, the Pacers hit open shots. That's something that they do well. They generate a lot of open shots, and they hit a lot of them. Whether it be Miles Turner, whether it be Nesmith, whether it be Nembhard, whether it be Ben Shepherd off the bench. Doesn't matter who it is. These guys are going to hit these shots. So you can't allow Tyrese Halliburton to facilitate in a way that allows his team to get, 10, 15 open three-point looks in a game. What we saw of the stretch, the stretch run of that fourth quarter from the Knicks was just amazing help defense, amazing switching. It was probably the best defense that we've seen the Knicks play in this series. It might be the best defense we've seen them play throughout these playoffs. Like, you look at Boston, the first 2 games, I think we can all agree that Boston missed a lot of wide open, easy shots. Like, the Knicks did make it tough at times, but Boston did shoot 25% in both those games. They missed a lot of wide open threes. In this series, especially down the stretch of that game, from 3 minutes in the second quarter on for the rest of the game, they made it extremely tough on the Pacers. And it could be largely attributed to the fact that the Knicks actually played their best defensive lineups. It's not rocket science. Tom Thibodeau needs to continue trusting these guys who maybe haven't played a lot, DeLon Wright, Andrew Shamet, in big spots again, because the Knicks are a much better team when they go 9 deep. And they kind of have to go 9 deep when they are going to stagger Brunson and Cat as much. Like, you just have to, because you're taking minutes away from both those guys. And both of those minutes, they can't go more to Mitch. I think Mitch is playing enough right now because, the Pacers can start hack-a-mitching. They haven't really done that over the course of this series because I think it slows down the pace of the game. They want to push it. But, also, like, you see a guy like, how much more can Bridges play? How much more can OG play? 38, 39 minutes is enough. They're not going to play 44, 45 minutes. So it's good that DeLon Wright and Landry Shamet come in and play some good minutes. Extremely important for this next team. And, those are the keys. I think, again, my far and away number one is Tom Thibodeau does exactly what he did in game 3. And experiment. You were pushed to the brink of failure and disappointment and going down 3-0 in a series. And that is what it took to get you to switch your mindset. You can't switch it back now just because, it might not work tonight. The Knicks, knock on wood, might win this game, and the bench could provide nothing, but play, a couple of meaningful minutes and, obviously take, some minutes away from the starters who, deserve some rest every once in a while. And then we see Tom Thibodeau not play them in game. Like, I don't want to see that happen. Like, the Knicks need to trust and rely on what worked in game 3. That's number one, and nothing will even touch it. I do think the Knicks need to crash the boards on both ends. Like, the Pacers have been pretty good as an offensive rebounding team. They do it well as a team. There's no one player that is able to grab a lot of offensive rebounds. But I'd like to see them, attack the glass on both ends, get back when they need to get back. I mean, if a guard is behind, a guard takes a 3, get the at back. The Knicks grab the offensive rebound, you can run back into the backcourt. That's fine. But the Knicks need to have people back. They need to slow down the pace of this game. They need to play their style of basketball. And whichever team adapts to the other team's style of basketball will win the game and will win the series. And I'm going to go through some comments here before I end this. Jeff, let's fucking go. Knicks in 6. Ryan, yeah, I mean, we agree. Get OG his 3-point attempts. He got 6 in game 3. He had 4. Brunson knows what he needs to be better at. 2 turnovers and stupid fouls. He will have 40 tonight. Let's hope for that. Biggest Knicks game of our life, I believe. How many biggest games of our lives have we gotten these last 3-4 weeks? Crazy. Knicks legends will be formed this series. Yeah, that's if they win. But again, it's good to be back. Glad to be doing this. No post-game video, or I'll give maybe a post-game video, but I do have work after this game for Sirius XM NBA radio, so not really excited for that because that means, I can't stay and watch the game with my friends and going to have to be back here, but I digress. I think this would be a really close game. I really don't know who's going to win it, but I think it will come down the last few minutes again. I think either the Knicks win by a lot or the Pacers win by a few. I really just don't envision a Pacers blowout in this game. I don't. That's the one prediction I'll make. I've been wrong so much in the past that I'm just not going to tell you what I think is going to happen. I mean, I really just don't have an opinion formed on this. Like again, about the Pacers, I don't think they're going to blow the Knicks out. I think the Knicks are going to show fight again. I think that the Knicks have found something defensively that is going to continue to stifle the Pacers. And if they stick with that, they'll either win this game or lose it by a very, very close margin. So that's all I got. Let's go Knicks. I really hope they win this game. I really do. And hopefully the next time we speak, the Knicks have tied this series up 2-2. Talk to you all very soon. Peace.